Greetings. Today's talk focuses on three primary topics. The first is the fact that the Model Y will be introduced on 2 days from now, so that makes it Thursday. We take a look at sort of what to expect and what we expect from that vehicle. The second thing we take a look at today is it Tesla Semi time? And then finally, we'll take a look at updates from China and what are the implications of the May completion of the new factory. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. As you all know, we like to do some traveling, and today we're roaming the Potomac once again in Old Town Alexandria, Virginia. We'll give you more video of that afterwards. But the problem right now is the orientation of the sun mandates that I have to face in this direction rather than the opposite to capture the water. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time on our channel, please take time to like and subscribe. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. Also wanted to thank those of you who are Patreon supporters. It definitely helps in terms of our modification of equipment and improving the quality of research and execution of the channel. So we've gotten, some news has been kind of wild with Tesla of late. As you all have seen, Tesla ran into some problems with their cost reduction process. The first item that was noted was that the company would be shutting down their store locations, and that sort of triggered some issues. Namely, it was noted that the leases that they had with those stores are still in place, and that a lot of the folks who have those leases would plan on suing. So it's believed that that might have influenced Tesla's decision to close those stores immediately or as soon as possible, and more move to an orderly closure of those stores in order to avoid the headaches of lawsuits and having to pay full rents even while those stores are closed. So that's one aspect. The second thing that sort of is newsworthy right now is the fact that Tesla announced some price reductions to go with the other cost reductions they were doing, and that made for some unhappy customers who paid higher prices, and a number of folks in that regard were thinking of suing as well. So as we've seen, Elon Musk has sort of reversed direction on this issue as well. So I think it's unfortunate that these kind of didn't work out. I hope that the planning and execution is a little better organized going forward, because clearly both customers and company deserve better than what was going on there, and that includes the folks in the malls, getting more notice than a few days and having a chance to make orderly changes in terms of mall space currently allocated to Tesla. So the first item we wanted to focus on today is it Tesla Semi time? Now the reason I ask this is that we've been trying to comb the information flow both in Europe as well as the United States to identify what's going on with the sales of Model 3 in particular, but all of Tesla's vehicles. The conventional wisdom is that the efforts made to increase or to get to a certain number at the end of last year really forced forward a lot of buyers for the Model 3 who might have waited until now or even longer than now in order to capture the full discounts that went with it. So as a result, we're now in a period, I believe, where sales might be slower than expected in the United States, and it's really driven by the fact that a lot of people that we're buying now already did so. So now you have sort of unsold vehicles, sold vehicles potentially in the United States. It was our expectation that between China as well as Europe, that sales would be extremely strong, and the fact that Tesla has elected to bring forward the 35K model and start ramping production of that suggests that the numbers in Europe tended to lean, in terms of reservations, were leaning towards the lowest priced vehicle. Hence Tesla's efforts to move to the production of those vehicles right away. So I wanted to suggest then that what's going on right now is that we're in a zone where, unfortunately, Tesla's not selling the very high-priced vehicles in Europe, and as a result, we're getting this result of the company having to go to the lower-priced vehicles, which means they make less money, and the chances of them getting beyond break-even to profitability is lower in the short term. So I think I have to admit, I'm a bit surprised by this because, the fuel costs in Europe are so much higher, and one would think that the buying public would aggressively buy the three, particularly if they're offered the mid-range 50,000 in the US model with 300 miles of range. The thought process is that should be a high-selling vehicle in Europe, and therefore not necessitate having to produce the 35K vehicle to get sales rolling there. But it seems clear that this may be what's going on based on Tesla's both announcement and starting to take orders and deliveries of that vehicle. So hopefully the profit margins are solid enough to make it work, and hopefully we'll also see a nice spike in sales. This, if you will, slowdown in demand for Model 3, etc., brings up a really interesting question, which is it time for the Tesla Semi? I say this because one of the issues everybody is having right now is a shortage of batteries, including Tesla. So if you have customers who've prepaid for large trucks already, why wouldn't the company go ahead and start the production of the Semi and start delivering those vehicles? Because the back orders are multiple years in depth, and all they would need to hear is that Tesla is ready to go and ready to produce, and those battery packs can, instead of going into discount, sort of lower price Model 3s, you could actually see these batteries being used in a Semi situation. And I just think that would be a great use of the resources of manpower, batteries, etc. And I'd have to say that it's strange to not see this occurring right now, because there's a huge shortage of batteries, and we actually need to see those batteries go to someplace. And why not have it go to the place? In this case, my recommendation would be, let's get those semis rolling out, and those large sales can really help the company, because the value proposition of the Semi is so high that I think there's unlimited demand for it, and you don't have to discount for people who benefit in the way that large corporations will from the fuel cost savings, etc., that come with that Semi. So the argument basically is, hey, why not bring out Semis now instead of giving up those batteries to cheaper Model 3 versions, etc. The next thing that we're covering today is what's going on in China. It's now mid-March. It was suggested that what actually is going on is that the factory in China will be done in May. And it's interesting to me that in China, they're calling it Gigafactory 3. And I find this very strange, because it's taken, call it 4 years, to build the Nevada-based Gigafactory for Tesla. And the suggestion that China could get done a Gigafactory, a la what's going on in Nevada, I think is comical, because I believe it's a lot more complex a construction effort than could be done in this short a period of time. So for now, I'm just calling it Assembly Facility 3, and the whole idea being that China will be able to do assembly, but it's not anything that is likely to China will be doing assembly of Model 3s and perhaps building out, there's a stamping plant, etc., to produce parts so that things can be produced. The suggestion was batteries were to be coming locally in China, but I would expect they would start production with batteries coming from the Gigafactory, and then eventually moving into Chinese production as they're able to get batteries that are comparable. And this brings up the whole question of, well, why are they calling it a gigafactory when initially Tesla announced they were going to be building batteries in China, and then it was revisited to conclude that they were no longer, the goal in China was to build cars, but there was a fear that the machinery, interesting. Steve made a comment just now regarding new batteries charging in 5 minutes that are available. There's a whole bunch of new stuff coming, so that would not be a stunner to see that occurring. So where we're at right now basically is China is going to be done the beginning of May, I believe, and ready to start producing cars possibly mid to late summer in China. It get rid of the tariff issues, number one. Number two, it gives another production location in case any problems occur in the United States production facilities. And number four, it gives China more incentive to buy the cars because it's a domestic producer now. So I think all of those are sort of good outcomes of that factory being ready. I'm hoping there isn't a lot of loss of intellectual property so that it hurts Tesla in a huge way. The final thing that we were covering today is the fact that the Model Y is being announced, and wanted to review a few implications of this. The first is that, as we shared in our last show, it's great that the Model Y is coming on board. Excellent question regarding is it the Neo that'll do 5-minute charging? I actually don't know, and would be interested if you guys want to add some material to that. So getting back to the Model Y, a few points that I wanted to make here. The first is that in the United States and Europe, 59% of the vehicles being purchased are SUV sort of style. So it's my expectation once the Model Y does appear that it will outsell the Model 3 in that fashion. I will not be attending the Y show, but I think it'll be fun. It'll be a fun event. But it's my belief that that vehicle will outsell the Model 3 once it's available. And the main reason why people are buying these vehicles in such large numbers is the cost of real estate. Folks can't afford to own more than one, maybe two vehicles now. So if you have a vehicle, it has to have the flexibility to cover a lot of different situations. So homes are being built on multiple levels. Oh wow. Danish media has chosen not to cover or even show Model 3 in any version. Wow, interesting. So I wanted to highlight the fact that I think it's great that the car is being announced. I think it'll do well once it arrives. I think it'll be somewhat cannibalizing of the Model X because its Lex complex will likely be in the $50,000 range versus $70,000 to $150,000, and have all the potential for repair work that's going to be necessary on that Model 3. So, wow. Donovan, thanks for the comment regarding sales in Sweden. You did share that Model 3 was doing well there, and I would, that's good to know and good to hear. I also wanted to note that if you guys have any photos of Model 3 showing up in different parts of Europe, I would love to see it. And if you also have any sense for how sales are going, it'd be good to know as well, because a lot of the impact on the stock price, etc., right now is based on the fact that Elon announced that they were going to be losing money, and those losses are affecting the stock price, etc. So anything we can get going in terms of identifying what's happening over there. I would also say that the bottom line is that it may not be that big a deal that we're not seeing those numbers, because you can kind of tell what the production levels are by counting cars as they leave the factory. So I think that might be more of an accurate way to gather numbers. I'm kind of switching orientation here because typically you want the sun right in front of you, as is the case right now. And I want to change up a little bit, gives a different view during the show, etc. Today I've chosen to sort of field your questions as we near the end of our show. If possible, feel free to fire away. Wanted to say hello to Jim, Donovan, Stephen, etc. Thank you all for joining us on our live feed. So the final thing that we wanted to review today is we've sort of been piecemealing some of the things that we saw at the factory. And I'm going to start our conversation today with a weird comment, which is that we'll show a photo of the parking lot of Tesla. And so if you look at our last show photo, and then we'll include, a new one, it's strange to see a large parking lot next to the factory, because Tesla's operating on 3 shifts. And if you have, let's say, 25,000 employees at that facility, let's say it's 20,000, in theory, there's 7,000 people working there on any shift. So there's a huge parking problem. So when we arrive, there's a parking lot that's directly south of the factory. Half of that parking lot is devoted to, if you will, hourly workers. And what we found interesting about it was that, hey Norman, what we found fascinating about it was when we arrived, there were employees lurking in the parking lot trying to line up a parking space for themselves from other workers leaving. So people are being asked to do a variety of things. Wow. So we just had a dump truck show up and decide to unload right at the spot where we were shooting. Wow. Wow, that's amazing. So what's happening here, we're in a place called Alexandria, Virginia. We're in a place called Alexandria, Virginia, and what's going on right now is that the area we're in experiences a lot of flooding. So the truck that you just heard / saw in the big building behind us is part of the flood control facilities that they're doing here. And so unloading those giant rocks is kind of a surprise, but it definitely makes sense. So what we wanted to cover about this parking lot is it's a $5 billion parking lot. Why is it $5 billion? Very simple. The real estate prices in Silicon Valley are some of the highest in the United States, and especially in the manufacturing space like Tesla's. What's also happening is that you have 5,000 employees that need to park. There's a percentage of them that can commute in. There's a percentage of them that are parking in remote lots and therefore taking a shuttle in. And there are those that are lucky enough to get space that's close in to where it can be done. Whoa. Sorry about that, Jerry. Okay, thank you for the note there, Jerry. That's unfortunate regarding a signal being down a bit, which is strange because right that far away from where we were before, it should be solid. So basically what we're noting is Tesla has a $5 billion parking lot. And if they were able to sublet that space to another company, they could build a multi-deck parking facility that would allow the employees to park, and then it would allow the company to move a lot of those parking facilities away, so the staging area for cars could be bigger and more trucks could get in and out. As it is right now, if you drive away from the factory, in the neighborhoods that are nearby, there are all these empty truck haulers pulled over to the side of the road on other people's land. So I just thought it was interesting how tight Tesla is for space, where they're now leasing other facilities nearby the factory, for functions like delivery of vehicles, etc. But they're also in a very tight pinch in terms of staging areas and for the trucks to sit on prior to pulling in. So we talked before about wasting a lot of money on things like truckers sitting in places or going to places that are near the factory but not, in a great position. And it costs money and time, etc., to do that. And so I really think that it would be great to see Tesla look at installing some multi-deck parking adjacent to the Gigafactory, etc. Great idea, Jerry. Thanks for the comment about walking around. I was really trying to identify how to get a better picture relative to the sun, etc., and with the sound, etc., it didn't quite work out. So at any rate, I wanted to thank, so my point today about the factory is that we'd love to see them figure out how to get somebody to build some space so that they can have parking as well as places to put the cars so the truck, the trucks have some peaceful zones to load up as well as deliver raw materials. So, at any rate, you guys have noted wind challenges, etc. I think what we're going to do is maybe show you a 360 view of where we are. I agree. I agree, Jerry. Thanks for your comment, and we're going to head back in studio for our next show and not come outdoors, but it happens to be one of our best days ever. Will we get updates on the semi-truck and Roadster? Excellent questions. I hope so, because right now it looks like the Model 3 sales are slower than expected, and I believe those updates will come because those battery packs will now be available. So I'm going to note, don't forget 20 leg lifts on each leg with a 5-pound weight. Don't go to bed within 4 hours eating, preferably 4, but possibly 2 hours would be good. Wow. Hey, thanks for the update there, Radman. I'm in the DC area. Please drop us an email or a note on our Facebook page, and would love to get some information on that. We do have a new camera that we're going to put in action in the studio. Great idea, thank you. So we're going to close out today. Tschüss, mach's gut, au revoir, lehitraot, hoda hafez. In Jamaica, we say enough respect, thanks for joining us. And we're going to close out today with a 360 view, looking back. Good idea, thank you. So we're looking at the Potomac River from Alexandria, Virginia, Old Town. Thanks once again for joining us. Have a great day. Look forward to our after Model Y introduction.